Warhammer is a big deal. Gone are the days of our hobby being confined to magazines you'd hide even harder than your dirty mags. Warhammer is everywhere and it's more relevant than ever. In fact, I've spent the last month of my life scouring the internet for every reference to Warhammer of all flavours. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment which one's your favourite as I show you every reference to Warhammer in all media ever.
Hey, to celebrate, how about we play a little old school double dribble?
Okay, but no stupid-ass shots from the corner, because that's a glitch in the software.
Game on!
Paladins, a game that definitely isn't a cheap ripoff of Overwatch made by a company that exclusively makes knockoffs of popular games, has a few references to Warhammer. The character Atlas takes a lot of design inspiration from Space Marines, particularly his shoulder and backpack. When the character Terminus scores a kill streak, he says, "Kill, maim, burn!" which is Khan the Betrayer's saying. The character Khan is said to be the protector of the Ruby Throne, which echoes the Golden Throne. And when using this skin for the character Victor, he takes a page out of the Borderlands playbooks of unfunny and unsubtle references and says,
"In the grim darkness of the grimdark, there is only grim darkness."
Yuck. In Warcraft 3, a game that came installed on my workplace computer for some reason and got me through 3 years of reception work, if you click on the Griffin Rider enough, he will say, "This Warhammer cost 40,000. In The Last of Us, you can find B-Tech Warhammer miniatures sprawled around different house environments. Metroid Prime 3 Corruption contains a reference to a conflict called the Horus Rebellion, obviously a reference to the Horus Heresy. The only footage of this I can find is an ultra blurry YouTube short that I'll have linked with my other references in the description. In Sid Meier's Civilization, the least enjoyable way to spend 6 hours of gaming, the Beyond Earth spin-off contains a faction called Purity Affinity, which takes a lot of design inspiration from the Imperium of Man. I'm including this one because a lot of people on the internet have called it a reference, so it's here for the sake of definitiveness. But I really don't see it personally. These strike me as a lot more Halo than Warhammer. In Heroes of the Storm, perhaps the most enjoyable way to spend 6 hours of gaming, Calfast references Khorne and the World Eaters by saying,
"Blood for the Blood Elves, Sun for the Sun King."
In Mass Effect 3, there's a Tauran leader called the Primarch. I'm including this one because enough people have soyjacked this one online, but Primarch does just sort of mean leader, so you can't definitively call this one a reference. But Mass Effect has made it into my other 2 videos in this series, and the word is so irreversibly attached to Warhammer at this point, and it is likely a nod. In Azure Lane, a game where you collect hypersexualized, anthropomorphized lady versions of real-life battleships, and was somehow only rated 12 on the Play Store until like 2 months ago. This game was a rabbit hole. There's a loading screen which recreates this very iconic Horus Heresy artwork. Weird.
Violence in movies and sex on TV.
South Park has a very well-known episode loosely revolving around the kids playing Warhammer. It's a pretty painful watch, to be honest. The Warhammer stuff is very ham-fisted, and the Andrew Tate stuff is agonizingly unfunny. It's definitely worth watching just to see the characters play Warhammer. But considering this is the same show that did Make Love Not Warcraft and Cock Magic, some of the greatest works of parody ever made, the Warhammer episode just doesn't compare. At the very least, this episode was actually foreshadowed much earlier when Token is shown having a Ravenwing poster in his bedroom, which is the army that he plays in the Warhammer episode. So that's pretty cool at least. In the animated spy comedy Archer, we got our very first reference to Warhammer Fantasy. When Archer's forced to hang out with the loser Cyril and do nerdy shit, he plays Warhammer Fantasy against some kids. Specifically, the show name drops that he's playing Beastmen against Chaos Dwarfs.
My tactics were flawless, and yet my forces lie decimated.
Because you left your beastmen exposed to his chaos dwarf.
I love this one because it's so much more niche than just hey look Space Marines. In the greatest British media of all time, and it's insane how not even close it is, Peep Show, whilst Mark calls his pregnant ex-partner, he drops this line.
Oh shit. No, Soph. Cancel. I'm cancelling you out of shame. Like my subscription to White Dwarf.
If you're American and not watched the show, go fix that right now. I've watched the full show like 6 times and it stays funny every time. In perhaps the least funny British media ever, Thank God You're Here, where old, unfunny, washed-up comedians dress up and do skits, Ross Noble dresses up as an elf and does an unfunny Lord of the Rings skit, where bizarrely, Nurgle and the Skaven get name-dropped.
The stuff of Nurgle!
In the show Slow Horses, there's a single-digit amount of frames where you can see some sprues, clippers, and Citadel paints on someone's desk. For the life of me, I cannot find the episode this belongs to. In the season 33 episode 12 of Doctor Who called Nightmare in Silver, there's a human culture with an Imperial Guard that was said to have destroyed an entire planet in order to eradicate aliens. They wear very similar uniforms to the Imperial Guard, use laser guns, and worship an emperor. In a blink and you'll miss it scene in the Will Smith movie Enemy of the State, Will Smith's son is reading White Dwarf. I got a lot of this information from Reddit as these references are very poorly documented, but special shout out to Crimson Loyalty for catching this micro detail. In The Expanse, during Fight or Flight, Drummer sarcastically tells Fred Johnson that a cathedral converted into a warship sounds like the heart of a great and lasting nation. I wanted to find more context from this one, but this show was a real snoozer. In The Scots, one of them shows that no one's ever heard of, but yet still inexplicably has like 5 seasons. The cast enter a Warhammer tournament and just sort of play Warhammer. It's not too subtle. In Blackberry, a dramatized retelling of the creation of the Blackberry phone, a character is seen painting a space marine. No primer, however, just straight paint the plastic. In episode 3 of Fubar, a CIA slop show featuring Arnold, you can see a cabinet of Warhammer models in a nerdy guy's house. In the very first episode of Koala Man, a show made by the only Australian I'll ever respect, Michael Cusack, the kid is majorly into a Warhammer-like game. This reference is actually an insane include in this video, as it's mentioned nowhere on the internet. I discovered it myself when I started watching the show while this video was sat unlisted to make sure that boat game didn't get this video demonetized. I pog-faced my TV so hard when I saw it and sprinted to add it to the video.
This should explain everything. A farewell to arms. I fell in love with a nurse during World War I? No, just the title. There's no way you've read that.
You'll have to bear with me for the book stuff, as there isn't much in the way of visual references, so enjoy whatever gameplay I put on the screen for the next 2 minutes. In the Rick and Morty comic, there's a panel of Morty staring at a Starhammer display, complete with Cornet references to Blood and Skulls. I've had Rick and Morty come up in my other entries in this series, and they're normally pretty weak, but I don't know, I really like this one. I love the little chaos guy, he's really charming. Also, Khorne might be like by far the most referenced thing of Warhammer. This next one is perhaps the weirdest and most direct reference I've ever seen to anything ever. In the 2012 Halloween issue of Family Circus, a super long-running syndicated comic strip from the 60s, consisting of a daily single panel image. The comic consists of a boy getting ready for Halloween, as the comic reads in full, quote, "I've decided I don't want to go as a ghost. I want to dress as Tactical Sergeant Tarkus from the Blood Ravens 4th Company in Warhammer 40,000. I have such a love for niche, surreal name-drop comedy, and this might be the greatest example of it ever. It's just baffling. In an unpublished epilogue to the final Doctor Who adventure novel, The Dying Days, a future incarnation of the Doctor teases Jason Khan by claiming the last time he saw Bernice Summerfield, she was being inaugurated as God Empress of all human space. In Jim Butcher's series of novels called The Dresden Files, a series spanning 17 books across 20 years, which follows the cast of Magic the Gathering if you've been hit on the head and woke up with a bad case of the Mandela effect. A short story called The Warrior has a character described as, quote, technically an inquisitor of Order Malleus to be more specific. In the space opera novel series The Expanse, a collection of books that pushes the limits of what can be considered not the Star Wars font. Soldiers called Iconium Marines are said to wear bright blue power armor with an eagle symbol across their chest. In the supernatural police drama Rivers of London, a character claims to be part of the Ordo Mechanis, and asks another character if they know what that means, to which that character cracks back, "You maintain the sacred machines to further the glory of the God Emperor of mankind." In Goblin Slayer, an anime that did to enjoying goblins what Hitler and James Corden did to their respective countries' national pride, there's a minor antagonist subtly called the Chaos Marine, and he just looks like this, straight up a space marine. When I was at uni, some greasy pudgeball said, "Oh, you're into goblins? Check this out," and showed me an anime
I need an apothecary
highlight reel on his phone mid-lecture because of this anime. In the October 12th, 2008 issue of Foxtrot, the kids are playing a D&D style game of Lord of the Rings featuring the Balrog. But as the kids don't have a miniature of the Balrog, they use a bloodletter in his place. Full name drop and all. In Marvel Comics' Venom Space Knight, the tower just sort of there. At first I wasn't sold, as this could just be any blue alien. I don't remember the Tau auxiliary species of panda lemurs, but one panel shows the alien race's vehicles, and damn, that's as blatant as it gets. Supposedly Games Workshop took this into legal hands, but I can't find anything conclusive about it. In The Unspeakable Cult of Doom, a webcomic about the slice of life antics of Cthulhu, issue 341 shows some Grey Knight looking guys falling through a wormhole, as Cthulhu enjoys some tea with Nurgle and Tzeentch. I adore the depiction of Tzeentch here, it's adorable.
Whoa, ass ahoy.
This next section is for random pieces of media too small for their own section, or that just aren't really references. Amarath, a Swedish metal band formed in 2009, have a song called Outer Dimensions, the music video of which ends with a 3-second long scene of a cardboard Terminator just sort of swiveling around. The band Dragon Force have a song called Space Marine Corps. It's kind of about Space Marines, that's it. The species of spider found in Australia was named Abaddon Despellator due to its spiky black and yellow appearance. Finally, I've seen a lot of mention of a Warhammer reference in My Little Pony, but the crossover fanart between the two are so unfathomably voluminous that it's kind of buried under a pile of mush. It's just impossible to Google. Weirdly enough, in Total Warhammer 3, there's a reference to My Little Pony in the Ogre's mercenary thing called My Tiny Horse, which does make me think there's something there to this one. And that was every reference to Warhammer that I could find. This was a weird one. On the one hand, there was a few things here that was expected. Lots of British media and a real emphasis on Warhammer players being nerds. But what really shocked me was that I could not find a single reference on the entire internet that explicitly pointed at Age of Sigmar. I love Age of Sigmar, but it seems to have very little cultural significance so far. And if you've ever wondered which Chaos God was the most culturally relevant, it's Khorne, and it's not even close. Thank you all very much for watching. If you loved this format, check out my main channel for a version on Minecraft and Plants vs Zombies. Cheers.